Aquarius. March arrives in a way that feels different, not through dramatic change, not through something loud or overwhelming, but through a feeling that's hard to name. Lately, have you noticed you've been thinking about someone more than usual? Not because you're lonely, not because you're stuck in the past. It's more like a thin thread of memory, still resting quietly in your heart, as if it never truly left. Mature hearts understand this. Emotions don't always return to begin something new. Sometimes they resurface to remind us of something that was once very real. And when you're calm enough to look back, you begin to see how much you've changed, more than you realized. This month, the energy around you feels softer, slower, deeper, almost as if life is placing a question in front of you, instead of handing you an answer. And maybe that question is this: could a connection that once existed be waiting for you to see it through different eyes? We're going to step into that space together, gently, one layer at a time, starting now. Aquarius. Pause for a moment. Take a slow, deep breath. And think of someone you once believed you had moved past. Have you ever wondered, out of the hundreds, even thousands of faces you've met in your life, why there's one who makes you slow down? Not because they were dazzling, not because they fought to stay. It's just that when you think of them, your heart doesn't race, but it shifts, slightly, quietly, and honestly. Mature hearts don't lean toward dramatic stories anymore. We've lived enough to understand that what's loud rarely lasts. But there are encounters, soft as the wind changing seasons. No announcement, no declaration, just an arrival at the right time, when you're calm enough to notice. March carries that kind of energy. It doesn't push you to fall in love. It doesn't rush you into decisions. It simply places a memory gently in front of you and asks, do you see this differently now? Maybe it was a glance you once brushed past, an afternoon conversation neither of you thought would matter, or someone who stepped out of your life at a time when both of you were too young to truly understand each other. And then one day, in the steadier rhythm of your present life, you realize you're no longer looking at them through your old ego. No more defensiveness, no more comparison, no more trying to prove anything. Just one gentle question. If we met again as the people we are today, would it feel different? Aquarius. You've always thought more than you reveal. On the outside, you may seem composed, but inside, you're constantly analyzing, reflecting, connecting scattered dots into a bigger picture. And maybe what feels meaningful this month isn't about the other person at all. Maybe it's about the way you're evolving. Growth isn't about erasing the past. Growth is remembering without the ache. It's being able to look at someone who once stirred your heart without feeling smaller or incomplete. That's strength. There are threads in life that don't tie us to someone forever. They simply remind us that something real once existed. And sometimes, that moment wasn't meant to keep a person in your life. It was meant to teach you how to open your heart without losing yourself. March feels like a mirror. It doesn't create connections. It reflects the ones that were already there. The ones you may have overlooked while you were busy protecting your heart. Now, as you grow calmer, as you stop chasing validation or searching for someone to fill a space inside you, you begin to understand. A true connection doesn't take away your freedom. It allows you to feel more like yourself. And if someone keeps resurfacing in your thoughts right now, it doesn't automatically mean you need to go back. It may simply be a quiet sign that your heart has matured enough to see the story in a different light. Aquarius. You weren't born to chase anyone. You were born to understand yourself first. And when you truly know yourself, you'll recognize which connections deserve care. Not out of fear of losing them, but out of genuine appreciation. That some encounters don't change your life in dramatic ways, but they quietly reshape how you love, how you trust, how you allow someone into your deeply personal inner world. And sometimes, the most beautiful part isn't two people finding each other again. It's you discovering a more peaceful version of yourself when you think of them. If a memory has been gently touching you these days, don't push it away. And don't rush to define it. Just listen. Just observe what you feel. That it may be that what's truly beginning isn't a new relationship at all, but a new layer of awareness within you. And that may be the most meaningful gift an encounter can leave behind. Maybe that person walked through your life years ago, at a time when you were still building yourself, still learning how to stand steady, still trying to prove that you didn't need anyone to complete you. Back then, you moved fast, you thought fast, you reacted fast, and you left just as quickly. Aquarius isn't easy to read. You observe more than you reveal. You think far deeper than you ever say out loud. And in love, you don't hand over your heart just because a feeling sparks in a moment. You need intellectual connection. You need conversations with depth. You need to feel that someone understands the complexity of your inner world, not just the calm surface you show to everyone else. But growth isn't only about understanding others. Growth is about understanding yourself. There was a season in your life when you loved from a younger ego. You loved to prove you were independent. You loved to see who could keep up with your rhythm. If someone wasn't quick enough, you thought they weren't aligned. If someone wasn't strong enough, you thought they weren't worthy. Time, however, teaches differently. Real strength isn't about who endures longer. It's about who is sincere enough to stay, without pretending to be perfect. March brings you a pause to reflect, not to regret, not to rewind the clock, just to recognize something simple. You are different now, calmer, less reactive, less focused on who wins or loses. You understand that a relationship that didn't work in the past doesn't mean it was wrong. It only reflected who you were at that time. And if someone once walked away, or if you chose to step out of that story, it may have simply been that neither of you had reached the same level of maturity. Aquarius doesn't love loudly. You love thoughtfully, with respect for space, with the ability to talk for hours about ideas, dreams, philosophies of life. In the past, you needed someone who stimulated your mind. Now, you also need emotional steadiness. In the past, you wanted freedom. Now, you understand freedom isn't distance. Freedom is being fully yourself without fearing judgment. And when you change, the way you see someone changes too. A person who once irritated you may now make you reflect. A person who once seemed impatient may now be viewed with compassion, not because they've transformed, but because you've lived enough to realize everyone is learning their own lessons. March doesn't bring someone new into your life like a grand event. It opens a door of awareness. You begin to ask yourself, if I met that person again as I am today, would I respond the same way? Would I still feel the need to defend myself? Would I still feel the need to prove I'm strong? Or could I sit down, listen, and let the story unfold more naturally? Growth doesn't make you weak. It makes you deeper. It helps you see that love isn't a battle of intellect. It isn't a test of endurance. It's a space where two mature people choose to grow side by side. The most beautiful part isn't finding someone from the past again. It's looking at yourself and clearly seeing the evolution. You no longer love to fill a void. You love because you are already whole. And when you feel whole, and every connection that appears is viewed through softer light, less harshness, less judgment, more understanding. Perhaps what's truly changing this month isn't the circumstances, not the other person, but the way you enter a story with the calm of someone who knows their own worth and no longer fears losing anything. And that calm becomes the real foundation for a more mature connection, if it truly belongs in your journey. And after all these years, you begin to understand something simple. Love is not about holding on tightly. Love is about trusting enough to open your hands. Aquarius once believed you needed someone strong to walk beside you, someone who could keep up with your quick mind, your far-reaching ideas, your limitless dreams. But over time, you realize something deeper. What makes a connection last isn't speed, it's respect. Respect for personal space. Respect for the days you need silence. Respect for the thoughts you're not ready to share yet. As you've matured, you no longer seek possession. You no longer need someone to belong to you as reassurance. You seek alignment. Someone who can sit next to you in the same room, each of you inside your own thoughts, yet still feel connected. Someone who doesn't speak excessively, but when they do, you feel sincerity in their voice. There was a time when you wanted clear declarations, definite answers, certain promises. Now, you understand something different. Presence is the greatest answer of all. and someone stays, not because they feel pressured, not because they fear losing you, but because they choose to. The connection unfolding this month doesn't feel like a scripted chapter. There's no dramatic soundtrack, no bright spotlight. It feels more like two people who've walked through different seasons of life, each carrying their own scars, their own lessons. And when they meet again, they're no longer trying to impress, no longer trying to appear flawless. They look at each other with familiar eyes, but with a new calm. You begin to understand that what truly makes the difference isn't intense emotion, it's steadiness. A thread held together by respect doesn't break easily. It isn't stretched by expectation. It isn't tightened by fear. Aquarius values freedom. But real freedom isn't the ability to walk away at any moment. Real freedom is choosing to stay without feeling like you're losing yourself. When you're mature enough, now you don't want someone to change for you. You want both of you to grow. You're no longer searching for perfection. You're searching for honesty. Someone honest enough to admit they're still learning how to love. And in that honesty, a quiet kind of peace begins to form. You don't feel the need to check your phone constantly. You don't measure every message. You don't analyze every silence. You trust the natural rhythm of things, like two rivers flowing side by side. They don't need to merge to prove they exist. They simply know they're moving toward the same horizon. Perhaps the greatest shift is this. You no longer love from lack. You love from fullness. You don't enter a connection to search for your worth. You enter it already aware of your worth. And when two whole people meet, their bond isn't built on need. It's built on choice. The choice to listen. The choice to be patient. The choice to stay. This isn't a promise of a perfect ending. It isn't a prediction of what's ahead. It's simply a reminder. When the way you see changes, the world around you shifts as well. And if someone is walking beside you in this season, try seeing them through the lens of respect. Not to hold on tightly, but to care gently. Not to possess, but to grow together. Because in the end, the value of a connection isn't defined by how it began. It's defined by how two people treat each other when neither of them needs to prove anything. And that quiet calm becomes the strongest foundation for whatever journey lies ahead. And then we step into March, as if we're walking into a quieter room. There's no noise from rushed decisions, no pressure to define everything right away. It's just you, and the way you respond to what's unfolding. This isn't a season for running ahead. It isn't a season for pulling back out of fear. It's a season for standing still long enough to see yourself clearly. You begin to notice a shift. Small, but deep. A message arrives later than expected. And you don't panic. An answer feels unclear. And you don't start writing extra stories in your head. A pause between two people. And you no longer interpret it as loss. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of firing off questions, you check in with your own feelings first. This calm didn't appear overnight. It's the result of years spent learning how to stand on your own. Aquarius has always been quick at reading a room. That's sensitive to the smallest shift in tone, aware of subtle changes others might miss. And that awareness, at times, has been exhausting. Because when you try to control every outcome, you lose something gentle inside yourself. March feels like a quiet test. No one is grading you. No one announces that you've passed. But you can feel the difference within. You no longer demand immediate answers. You understand that adults need time to think, that emotions need space to grow naturally. In the past, if someone slowed down, you might have sped up to maintain momentum. Now, you're willing to slow down with them, or allow them to find their own rhythm. Not because you don't care, but because you trust your own value enough not to rush to prove it. A real connection doesn't need force. It doesn't require you to sacrifice who you are. It doesn't ask you to shrink your dreams. It doesn't demand that you chase just to keep someone close. When you truly understand that, you begin to love differently. You love without losing your freedom. You love while still honoring your private nights, your thoughts, your inner world that has always been sacred to you. Freedom no longer means distance. Freedom means conscious choice. You stay because you want to. You listen because you care. You're patient because you understand the value of slowness. March tests you through silence, through questions without immediate answers, and through moments when you must trust the natural rhythm instead of trying to control it. And within those quiet spaces, you discover your real strength, not the strength of total independence, but the strength of someone steady enough to open their heart without being swept away. You no longer love out of fear of loss. You love from a place of worth. This kind of growth isn't loud. It doesn't draw attention, but you feel it in every small decision. When you stop reacting the old way, you begin rewriting your story in a new tone. And the most beautiful part is this. You don't have to push anything forward. You simply hold on to your calm. Hold on to that quiet confidence. Hold on to the trust that what truly aligns with you will remain. Not because you grip it tightly, but because it belongs in your evolution. March doesn't test you with dramatic events. It tests you with slowness. And when you move through that slowness with composure, you realize you've stepped into a deeper level of loving and living. It's not a dramatic transformation. It's an evolution, quiet, grounded, and filled with self-respect. After all the observing, the pauses, the moments when you chose calm instead of reaction, you begin to see something clearly. What's unfolding in March isn't necessarily a brand new chapter. It feels more like light falling across a page you once read, but never fully understood. See, that person may not be the one in some absolute destined sense. You're mature enough now not to place your entire life on an idea that rigid, but they may have been something real in your journey, a piece that appeared right when you needed to learn something about yourself. And when you look back through the eyes of who you are today, you realize something. What began long ago may not have been love the way you once defined it. Not infatuation, not intensity, but understanding. The feeling of being seen, being heard, being respected even when neither of you were perfect. March doesn't create that understanding, it simply clarifies it. Like when water becomes still and you can finally see the bottom of the lake. Like when your mind grows quiet and you can hear your own inner voice. Aquarius once believed you needed someone who made your heart race. Now, you value someone who makes your heart steady. You once searched for perfection in the way they spoke, the way they loved, the way they showed up. Now, you search for authenticity. Someone who can admit they're still learning how to grow. Someone who doesn't hide their cracks, but faces them. You understand that two imperfect people can walk side by side if they're honest with themselves. This kind of love isn't dazzling like a fairy tale. It doesn't need promises of forever. It's deeper than that, because it's built on daily choice. The choice to stay when things feel ordinary. The choice to listen when there are differences. The choice to grow together instead of chasing an ideal image. You begin to realize you're no longer looking for someone to fill a void. You're looking for someone to share your fullness. And that fullness comes from knowing who you are, knowing what you need, knowing what you will no longer accept. When you enter a connection with that clarity, you stop fearing loss, because you understand your worth isn't defined by who stays. That person may not mark the start of a new chapter. They may simply be a mirror reflecting how far you've grown, when you no longer try to change them, when you no longer try to reshape yourself to fit someone else's mold, when you can simply be there, authentic, steady, present. That's when you understand. The deepest part of a connection isn't the moment it begins. It's the moment you recognize its value. This realization isn't here to rush you into decisions. It's here to widen your heart. But to show you that love is no longer a search. It's a meeting between two people brave enough to look honestly at themselves. And when you can look at someone with compassion instead of expectation, you're loving on a deeper level. A level that doesn't need proof, doesn't need comparison, doesn't need promises. It only needs presence. And that is the kind of love a mature soul like yours can understand, can cherish, and can step into without ever losing who you are. If this month brings a connection that makes your heart slow down for a moment, don't rush to name it. You don't have to define it right away. You don't have to know where it's going. Some things, the more tightly we label them, the more we lose the very naturalness that gives them meaning. Let the feeling breathe. Let the conversations unfold without placing pressure on every word. Let the glances, the pauses, the quiet presence speak for themselves. Maturity is no longer running toward a label. It's understanding that not everything meaningful needs a title immediately. And not every deep emotion needs to be declared out loud. Some connections arrive to teach us patience. Some people enter our lives to reflect parts of us we hadn't fully understood. The most beautiful part isn't about keeping someone. It's about keeping your peace while standing beside them, when you can be with someone and still be fully yourself. When you can open your heart without losing your self-respect. When you can love without feeling confined. That's growth. If a connection appears in March, it isn't here to tie down your future. It feels more like a gentle reminder that you've come farther than you realized, farther than your old reactions, farther than the fears that once made you close off, farther than the expectations that once exhausted you. You're no longer searching for perfection. You're searching for truth. It's truth in the way someone looks at you, truth in how you feel when you're around them, truth in the way you both respect each other's space. If something began long ago, maybe now is simply the moment you're calm enough to recognize it. Not to return to the past, not to rewrite what already happened, but to understand that every experience, whether complete or unfinished, has shaped who you are today. And the person you are now, steadier, deeper, clearer, deserves a more mature kind of love. This journey doesn't need to end with a promise. It can end with awareness. The awareness that you've learned how to love without losing your freedom, how to cherish without needing to possess, how to stay because you want to, not because you're afraid. That may be the greatest gift of all. As you move beyond March, you don't have to carry a new relationship with you, but you can carry a new layer of understanding about yourself, about how you connect, how you choose, and how you allow someone into the deeply personal world inside you. This story isn't here to predict what will happen. It's here to create space, for you to listen to your heart honestly. And if there's one thing worth holding on to, it's this. Trust the rhythm of your own life. Every connection appears for a reason. Every lesson has its right moment to be understood. The rest, let time, and your continued growth lead the way. Because when you are steady within yourself, whatever journey lies ahead will begin from a stronger foundation. Self-respect, inner peace, and the courage to love in the most authentic way possible.